If you know me at all, you know I do not sing. I'm a producer. I make dubstep music. I make electronic music. I use other people's vocals, not my own. While maybe I can try, I can't ever seem to get my vocals to sound good. Until I found this free plugin and vocal chain. And trust me, it's really simple. And I'm going to go over all the details of how to get your vocals to sound good, the things that people aren't really telling you. Because sometimes people want to overcomplicate it so that it seems better than it is. Just so you know, this video is really out of my comfort zone. I don't like posting my voice, and I've always been scared to show it. But just to help anyone else that is the same way, maybe you share a room and it's hard for you to record, maybe you just don't like your voice or you didn't have the resources to make them sound decent, hopefully this video will allow that to be you.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out. Take what's left of me. Don't know what's left, but it was never meant to be.
For what it is, it sounds pretty okay. Maybe you can think the idea is bad, but that's preferential. We're talking about the processing, the actual vocal itself. Here's how it sounds completely raw.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out. Take what's left of me.
It's not that good. Now I could try to do another vocal take or even learn how to do better vocals, but why do that when I can just process them and make them sound a lot better? For reference, I'm doing this with this mic. This is a pretty popular mic. I think it's like relatively cheap. It's $100-ish. I have a very untreated room and I do it just using this pop filter right here. And I hold on to the mic when I do it. Don't gotta overcomplicate it. So step one is always just to make sure the vocal's on time. I got it loosely on time, but I just wanted to make it touch up just a little bit. Sometimes it takes a good ear to realize when it's slightly off time, but sometimes you want to leave it a little loose just for the flow of the song. But let's get to the meat and potatoes. This is the actual processing. And I'm not just going to go into this chain, I'm also just going to go into why you should be doing these things so you know what to do for each and every individual vocal and certain tricks to add some spice to them as well.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out.
So first, I have a fruity limiter on it. Obviously, it's limiting it slightly. So as you can see, it's slightly taking off the parts that are just standing out a bit too much and balancing it. That's the obvious use case of a limiter, but there's also the noise gate. This part's really important for background noise. Basically what's happening, you put the gain to 0 and the threshold slightly up. What this is doing, there's a line right here that shows up and basically everything under that line gets the gain put to whatever amount you set here. So for example, if I do like here, all these little parts that go below it are gonna get muted and you're gonna hear it gets kind of choppy.
Feeling that I'm in doubt.
And you can see the effect that that has. So I put it very slightly so that it just gets rid of the background noise of your room. Just like that slight white noise. You don't want it to actually affect your vocal very much. Next, now this is some sauce right here. I'm gonna try to put this in the description. This free Autotune plugin. This plugin I found for free, thank God, really gets the job done. So you set the scale. You might need to know your scales because it's not like you can pick the scale, at least that I know of. You have to actually click the individual notes you want. So for example, we're in D sharp minor. So we go whole, half, half, whole, right? And that's the scale. Of course, clicking on the ones you want to be in the scale. The main function is just the smoothing. That's just how strong the auto-tune is going to affect, how quickly it's going to go from note to note. But what's cool about it is there's these 3 different pitch engines. So you can kind of shape the sound of it as well.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out.
I notice up here it's a little brighter.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out. Feeling that I'm in doubt.
And this first one makes the vocal just sound a little softer around the edges. You might not be hearing this through your headphones, through compression, YouTube, but it's a very subtle difference, and especially with all the processing, it really helped out. If you want to have more spacey vocals, also the chorus.
Feeling that I'm in doubt.
This one makes it sound nice and spacious. And I think there's other options, but I don't really know what they are, so I'm not going to talk about them. That's not at all. We still need a lot more space and presence in this vocal, so honestly, probably underrated, but such a powerful thing for vocals. I use it almost every vocal I use, whether it's my own, of course, or just any vocal I come across.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out.
Not blasting it. I have the depth here around 25%, 23 there. Just bringing the high up and the mids down. Of course, the low, we don't need it at all. Put the time all the way up so that it stays dynamic. And then sometimes I just like to put the downward a little bit down.
Feeling that I'm in doubt, in my head, can't get out.
And now it sounds so much more present and bright in the mix. I have an EQ, of course, taking out the extreme low end. We don't need any of that. And it's gonna be different for every vocal. So you're gonna notice that whatever vocal you're using, some of them have the lowest harmonic all the way down here. So I did myself. I didn't want it to be too present, so I lowered it slightly. And especially in my higher notes, there's a pitch right here and I slightly dipped it there as well. If you have a decent mic, you're not going to be needing to do too much shaping in the EQ. I just have it slightly set to brighter by having the high end a little bit bigger than the mids, but that's all depending on what mic you have and what space you're in. Just to give you an example, if I were to do this on this mic, and this is what I do for all recordings I use on this main mic I use. This is a cheaper mic, by the way. It always has way too much frequencies in this 2000, 3000 hertz range, so I always dip it. And then sometimes I like to raise this and then lower back there. And that's what makes this sound like a more balanced mic than it is. I've even got compliments of my sound quality being very good, even though this is a super cheap microphone. But it's not for vocals. I don't like to use it for vocals. It's just not as good, but it can still get the job done. Again, as long as there's no like crazy noises in the background, it should be okay. I have a delay. This is another free plugin that's really good. You can totally use any delay plugin. Fruity Delay 3 is perfect. It just adds more space to it, and you can raise this up sometimes. Whatever works. Just make sure it's kind of quiet, otherwise it can be overpowering. I think a lot of people put the spread up or make it ping pong and it's going all around your headphones, and then it really takes off that presence of the main vocal in the middle. I think if you want to make a vocal wide, just have doubles. That's just the better way to do it. Then another reverb. This one's on at all times. Pretty big, to be honest, but that was kind of just the vibe of the song, so this was preferential. I would suggest don't put it too high. Like, you don't want to overwash out your vocals. If it's not sounding good dry, then there's a problem. This is another great free plugin. I'm telling y'all, I'm putting y'all on for some free stuff right now. Spectral Compressor, I've talked about it before. It's like a Soothe 2. It's a spectral compressor, so what it can do is specifically hit certain frequencies that once they pass a certain point, which is this line here, it'll duck it. How to use it? You just put the ratio up, and then up here the threshold is where you shape the line. This is for that tiny little touch to make it sound a little better. This recording, I probably should redo this but it sounded a little harsher. Those are very present, so this does a perfect job, as you can see here. A lot better. Then it's a soft clipper purely because it's just to keep it safe. It doesn't really do much. But let's be real, what's the vocal without the beat? Honestly, sometimes the beat of the song could accentuate the vocal so much more than we think. And literally, it could also mask imperfections. So here's the beat. This whole thing was inspired by an artist named Aaliyah Lene, if you've heard of her. And I think it's important to know what type of sound you want to make. It took me 2 other beats that failed before I made this one and found that sound. Sometimes it's easy to just go off the first thing you get, but if you're like me and you're a producer as well, or a producer most of all, the beat is just as important, if not more important, than the vocals you're putting on it. And especially the kick drum and snare, you want to make sure it complements the vocal. So I'll show an example. Here we have the double kick, and this hits on the vocal. Over here, we actually have everything stop for a second to accentuate this part in the vocal. There's a gap there, then it brings it right back in. The snare pattern is basic, but the slight thing that makes it stand out is that this last snare comes in late. And it lets you just sit on this last part of the vocal. When the reverb's out, it almost leaves you hanging for a second, because the kick and snare, that's your call and response. It will keep the rhythm of the song, that back and forth feeling. But when you hit the kick, you have that call and you're waiting for the response, and it doesn't come when you expect it. It leaves you hanging for a second and leaves a point of tension in the song. Last thing I want to show is an example of a vocal that you can't fix. Back here, I had this one little idea that I didn't really perform very well. I had a scratchy voice when I was doing it.
But it's not true, and it's not you. Let your thoughts pile up in a dark room.
It's okay, the processing fairly saves it, but
it's not true, and it's not you.
Like, I'm missing so many notes, especially that last one is really bad. Like, I would retake this, and it's important to just retake things that don't sound good, obviously. This one especially.
What can you do?
The problem with this one is that my voice is not steady enough, and so the auto-tune is making it go between the 2 in-key notes too much, and it makes it have that wobbly, just bad sound.
What can you do?
I also kept it very simple when it came to doubles. I just recorded the same phrases multiple times, more times than I needed, just so I can get the best takes.
Take what's left of me.
And I just have the central one,
Take what's left of me.
the left one, and then the right. that one's even worse.
Take what's left of me.
But with the processing and everything combined, sometimes the imperfections are okay.
Take what's left of me.
Sometimes I do think that a little more unique with the vocals can add a little more interest. This little filler part is this layer here, which actually made the format go down. This is using the Stretch Pro setting in the actual sample in FL Studio. You can slightly lower the format. So regularly, it just adds a little bit of a spark to the song. And then this little layer on top as a harmony. One thing I'll say, this plugin is very CPU intensive. I have 4 instances and it lags my project. A little tidbit for the people who stayed to the end. The truth is, your vocals are only as good as the writing. If you have a song that sounds okay, but the writing sucks, it's gonna be just harder to listen to. I've heard songs like that before. And I'm not gonna act like I'm the best writer, that these are like the most inspiring lyrics. They sound kind of depressing. Trust me, at the end of it, I'm writing stuff to make it actually like resolve, okay? So that it's not just some depressing song. But genuinely, it's just another skill that you wanna sharpen. And I would just say, even if you're not recording vocals often, even if you're like me and you don't really get the chance to, if you share a room or something along those lines, whenever you make a song, just try to write to it in your head, and it's just going to build that skill of writing. And trust me, I was a lot worse before, and you realize that there's levels to it. As an example, I have this whole Notion with lyrics, and this is all the lyrics I've stacked over time. A lot of them suck. Some of them are great. Some of them I find something good, but it's after all the bad ones that it just keeps going, and you end up where you are today. Hopefully this gets like 3 times as big, because that would mean I improved, right? Doing this song and making this video got me really out of my comfort zone. I've never been comfortable with my voice, and that's something I really wanted to just start getting over, and finding where my vocals fit better and using processing to make it sound like something I'd actually listen to has been a big game changer. So I really hope that I can do that for somebody. If you're like a producer who wants to put your own vocals on your tracks, but you don't really know how, I hope this really can help you do that.
Feeling that I'm in doubt in my head, can't get out. Take what's left of me.